hosting these kinds of events to get you all into contact with each other, but also in order for you to get to meet all our lovely hosts so that collaborations can happen. We also want you to get inspired, so that's why we also open create events where there's a platform for people to share their experience, to share all the new fields that are happening in the UX field, so that you can all learn something new and talk about it. And so we've been doing this already for a while. You can see that we're founded already in 2011, so we're quite OG in that respect, and we grew out to an organization of already more than 4,000 members across Belgium. So, and Antwerp is still our home base, and that's why we have a lot of events here. But we have also already been, we have already started in Brussels as well, and also in Hasselt, both of which have an event coming up in October. So be sure to check that out as well. And we're an organization that always
Really?
Yeah. We love that picture, Baba. So we are an organization that's led by volunteer, and you see me, you see Bavo, but there's a whole group of people who are working behind the scenes to make all of this happen, to make all of this possible. And if you also want to be part of the journey, if you also want to make these events happen, to also make sure that people can get inspired, can connect to each other, we're always opening our doors to other volunteers. What you get with us is an amazing group of people to work with, of course, but also many opportunities to get some hands-on experience in areas you never thought before. You have opportunities to expand your network, to get to know more people. So there's a lot of ways that you can get value out of this. If that feels like you can always talk to us. Don't be shy. We're always looking out for more people. So whether it's in Antwerp, Brussels, or Hasselt. Then of course we are here because this has been made possible by our dear sponsor iCaps tonight. And we have a lot of hosts with which we had already very successful editions, but we're also always on the lookout for having more opportunities to host. And that's why I want to ask to you, if you have an agency, if you have a business that is in UX, and you feel like you want to create these kind of events too, you also want to be a bit more known in the field or help with your visibility, you can always hit us up. We love to give people and companies that value UX a place to be seen and to connect. Also here in Antwerp, Brussels, and Hasselt. Then, of course, all of this, we all gather around great talks, great speakers, and we're also doing that again tonight. And we're also always looking out for new inspiration, new experiences, new stories that you want to share. So, and I believe that everyone here has a great story to tell in one way or another. So the only thing we ask of you is that you have the courage to take up the mic and come present here. So it's open for everyone. We don't look for a certain level of skill, a certain number of years of experience. It's just the will to present, basically. And if you feel that's you, you can also talk to us. You can also go to our site, and then we can get you booked. 2026 is still very open, so there's definitely opportunities out there. And we're gonna have a great conversation tonight. We're gonna have many conversations tonight, but we don't want to have those conversations end here. We want you to still be part of our group on the Slack channel, our very UX Belgium Slack channel, which has everything that the UXer would ever need. So we have channels where people can help each other out. You have channels where you can find all the new events, all the new trainings, all the new job opportunities that maybe have not launched on LinkedIn yet. You have also the random channel where you can have all the corny UX jokes you could ever imagine. So everything you want to talk about is in our Slack channel. So if you want, you can scan the QR code or you can join afterwards. So we're always happy to have you there as well. And then it's time to present our host today, who made all of this possible. iCaps is one of the, I think, one of the oldest agencies in Antwerp, and also a very well-known player, and also one, if I may say, with an amazing office. And so we have someone from the organization who's gonna say a bit more about that.
That's me. Oh, welcome everybody. I'm Philip Merton, account manager at iCaps. Some of you know me. And in 2000, before I started at iCaps in 2016, but in 2000 I started working for a human interface group. Who knows that company? Huh? Some people, some colleagues, ex-colleagues. And so I have a big affinity, of how do you say that, with everything concerning user experience and design. But yeah, so I'm here to, not to introduce myself, but to introduce iCaps. Yes, have a seat. There's still room available over there if you want, the people want to slide in. So, iCaps stands for iPhone Customer Applications. And you hear the word iPhone, that is just a bridge to the past, because iCaps was one of the first companies, we were the first company who made an app, a Belgian app in the App Store in 2009. And that was the Solo Open Kitchen app, which still exists, but is out of our hands. It's from Unilever. And then a little company, KBC, maybe you know a banking company, KBC. They came to us and asked, you make mobile apps, when do you want to do that for us? And that's how iCaps grew out of the 2 people to, I think now we are almost 100 people, as you see a nice picture of it. So what exactly do we do? So we enrich the daily life of people, making valuable digital solutions. This is a nice sentence, I think. And we do that with 3 pillars: think, build, care. So think is why you are all here and why you are so important to us. Designing and making user-friendly interfaces is very crucial, and also the strategic part is the think part. And once that is clear, we start building applications. That could be for mobile applications, web applications, backends, integrations, machine learning, LLMs, things like that. AI, maybe you have heard of it. And once we have a solution, it doesn't stop, because we keep on supporting the solution, and we have the iCaps Care for that. So it's some kind of service level agreement we have with our customers, that if something breaks, if there is a bug, and we fix it in no time, so they are happy and we are very comfortable. So if you have any leads or opportunities or questions for me, I am there. Nice talking to you. Thank you.
All right. So that's about our host for today. Then, before we go into the lineup of today, we also need to mention some amazing companies who make all of what we do possible. The first one is our sponsor, Creative Skills. So Creative Skills is the job platform in Belgium for creative professionals, whether it is that you do code, whether it is that you do writing, that you work with images, like a lot of us. Creative Skills has a lot out there. Creative Skills has also very niche opportunities that sometimes you don't always find on LinkedIn. So if September is for you a moment where you are looking for a new challenge, or if you would ever are in the future looking for a new challenge, Creative Skills is the place to go. Then there is also our sponsor, Ariad. So Ariad is also a very, very supportive sponsor of ours. They are one of the biggest, how do I say it, staffing companies in Belgium. So yeah, and what they do differently basically is they're really looking for the long-term wins, really win-win relations that happen when you have a client and you have really the right profile, and it's really a match not just for the client but also for your career basically. their recruiters are always open. They have a lot of job opportunities, but they also just want to look at spontaneously at what you do, so that they can see if there's a match that they might have in the future. So if you're looking for some career advice, if you're looking for some new things, also be sure to have a look at Ariad. And this brings us to the lineup for tonight, and it's a really interesting lineup, I have to say. Well, for once we don't have that much AI, so that's already a good, that's already some freshness into there. But basically, I think the leading thread here is we talk a lot about inclusivity. We have the WCAG rules and the European law that's already out there, but there's still quite a lot of work to do when it comes to inclusivity, when really working so that people really feel something is really built for them. And our first speaker, Christel van der Linde, she is the author of Evaluatie. So she's going to talk more about that. So what Christel van der Linde has studied and researched is all about actually how a lot of things are still made for a very homogenic population, but that it sometimes fails to really be built for what women in particular need. And that's actually, from what I understand, a very economical opportunity. So that's what she's going to talk more about. And then in the second part, we're going to have a talk from Sherry Tan. So Sherry did a PhD on, on something very, how shall I say it? Something that's very, very sensitive, but that's why it's also so important. She studied actually about how can you design understanding experiences for people who experienced online harassment. So it's really something, that we should know more about, so that we can really know more about how can we be supportive for these kind of people. So, but Sherry is after the break. We're first gonna start with Christel. So Christel, the floor is yours. Give her a round of applause. So let's see. Dat zou ideaal zijn, maar goed, eventueel deze nog voor.
Ja, maar als ik die dan...
Ja. En dan via de beamer van ze daar. En dit is zodat de mensen...
at different podia, that the men at different podia, that the men often think it's not for me. And I think it's absolutely also for you. The book I wrote, which is called Evaluatie, and I will explain why it's called like that, and we will give 5 books away after the keynote, not only for women, is not a feminist book in the sense of these are our rights and look at us, poor women. It's much more about the business potential of it. It's much more about excitement and innovation, product design and UX that women actually today represent in our current society. I'm not only an author, yeah, they call me now a femtech futurist, whatever. Futurist, femtech futurist. I also do quite a lot of trends and cultural research on generations, on many other things than just women. But today I'm here to represent Evaluatie. And before we enter it, I really want us to understand why actually we are not thinking about the fact that they will have so much money to spend. So if you can imagine that you're doing banking apps or insurance apps, this is a major opportunity to work around. So almost half of the global wealth, McKinsey says 48% in 5 years' time, will be controlled by women. So that is a big chunk. But this is even more important. 85% of all purchase decisions today are made by women. So 85% is decided by women which car we are going to buy, which house we are going to buy, which products we are going to buy, which food comes on the table, which sports we are going to do, which holidays we are going to book. 85% is the woman who makes the final decision. So she has a lot of power when it comes to consumerism and purchase. But only 1% of all the R&D investments worldwide goes to female innovation. 1%. That doesn't mean that men get everything. So it's 75% is innovation for the homogeneous group. So men and women alike and all the other genders, all alike. Yeah? But that is, of course, not working. So what we see in fashion, like the fluidity and that we are gender fluidity, is nice from a social point of view, but from an economic and innovation point of view, it's not the way to go. It's actually harming women more than doing good. 1% is so small. 25 goes more or less to men, 74 to the homogeneous group, and 1% to women. And there's something else. Remember, a lot of money, what I call the ROFI, the return on female investment. We know that when you create a product or a service that is fully female focused, that the return on female investment is 40 to 70% higher than any other investment made in a product or service for the homogeneous group or the pure male group. So if you just know the mathematics, you know that this is a huge business opportunity because women were never served. We never had banking apps for us. We never had bicycles that were completely, created for a woman's body, sport shoes, etc., etc. There is so much that we can still do, and they have the spending power. They make the purchase decisions. They have half of global wealth in hands, and they will do it because women spend, as you know, more than men. And it's a fact. So they are very, very, very much open to do this. And what I say is, like, women are today the super consumers, the super communities, and the super entrepreneurs. Sorry, man, but it's a fact. If you really want to do a good ROI also from your company, hire a woman. Because super consumers, for example, it's just an example, and today I had already another example because I had to give to this morning a big trend presentation on the hotel business and hospitality. And for example, in hospitality, we see that the biggest travel expenses and the biggest group today are women above 50 because they are spending the most in travel. But the same, for example, women who watch female sports. They watch with more people female sports than they watch a standard sport. And they spend 3 times more on merchandising, which is an interesting fact. If you know, like, okay, they want to be involved with a team. They much more see themselves as fans of a certain group than men. Also something very interesting, they gamble more on female games as well than men. So it's really a consumption pattern that we can say goes up and beyond. Super communities, and that has something to do with, of course, ages and ages of repression where women could only rely on other women to get healthcare or to get economic support or whatever. That are what we call the sisterhoods. Yeah? And women, for example, when it comes to medical support, trust much more their sisterhoods. For example, when you have breast cancer or when you have a certain disease, they will ask also their friends, what did you do, which food did you eat, or to which doctor did you go, much more than they trust the advice of specialized people. There was also even a chatbot research done that when the chatbot is a female chatbot, in medicine, women trust that more than a real doctor. Yeah? So also there, it's interesting to see how women's brains work when it comes to trust, because they trust much more sisterhoods. When it comes to money, because they spend differently. And why are they super entrepreneurs? Because although they get only 1% of all the innovation, and of venture capital, it's 2.2%. It's not a lot, so it's really, really small. They generate higher returns as an entrepreneur. So a female-led enterprise has 10 to 20% more revenue than a male-led enterprise. And for startups, it's 30% in the first 2 years. Why is that? Women are more risk averse. They've always learned not to be the smart ass or not to, go high, but to prepare herself well, because she knows she will get a lot of questions from investors. She will get a lot of questions for other people. Would you really set up a company? So women are better prepared. That's the only reason. That's not because they are smarter at all. They're just better prepared. They have already looked at the pros and cons 100 times before they start a company, and a man would do it 10 times. And that's just the first reason why they are performing better. They're just better prepared. So there is this kind of a gender investment gap, but also a gender spending gap, which is, for me, very important to grasp that. 10% of all female startups in Belgium have a female founder, and only 2%, as I said, 2.2% of all venture capital goes to women-led startups. That's quite an interesting number. If you look at that, female startups have a 30% better ROE. So why is that? That's why I think all the men left and came back at Supernova, but a lot of investors started investing in female companies the moment we really shared all the numbers, because it's important to get it. Again, it's not against men, but it's much more saying the preparation is different. And you see that in all kinds of calculations from Boston Consultancy Group, McKinsey, etc., etc. They also have better ESG scores, so on environmental and inclusivity scores, they're higher in training development, and they utilize capital better. They are just more in that sweet spot, which helps to retain people. Okay, that was the women economics. Then the data, AI, and of course, I think probably everyone in this room already knows that female data are almost non-existing in the data set what we use to generate AI. And of course, that is because for thousands and thousands of years and hundreds of years and last 100 years, all of the data that was gathered were male data, because women just couldn't be or were not allowed to take part in the economic system or in the banking system or whatever. So women are a bit like this black sheep, because all the data start from the male data. And that's sometimes interesting, but it's quite hurtful. This, don't need some rooms I need to explain this. You know that image generation still up till today gives, if you want to see a doctor or a surgeon, whatever, gives a 98% male image. When you prompt, I want a female image, you get a female doctor, but when you, on that image, you iterate to create something better, it again will give for 80% a male doctor. So that is not part of it. But this lack of female data is much more in everything. For example, in building chatbots, or there was a generative AI was used to build a kind of a platform where you can ask for a mortgage on a house. And when they tested, the women with the same income as the men got a very much lower mortgage income than a man, simply put because they looked at data from 40 years ago. And of course, women didn't have houses 40 years ago, or not on their name, and didn't have so much spending power, and didn't have so much money on their bank account. So they took all of that history data to come up with new sets of rules. But if you don't take that into account when you're building it, you will always have a part which is detrimental to women. So we need to be aware of that and build it in the system immediately, that when you are gender female, they have to look at quite another set of data than the standard set of data that is put for men. Because if we do not do that, women today will get a lesser mortgage, for example. And there's something else, and I still think it's incredible. I'm an ambassador for Polestar, and I can imagine I had a lot of words with them, because there is no car in the whole fucking wide world, and none of the electric cars either, that are as safe for men as for women. None. Yeah? Women still have, up till today, when they drive, when they are sitting behind the steering wheel and they have an accident, they have 74% more chance of injuries. 74%. It's not 20, it's not 10, it's 3 and 4. And 17% more likely to die. When it comes to pregnant women driving a car, actually it should be forbidden. It's the #1 reason for fetus death in the world is pregnant women who have a car accident. But nobody talks about it. Because if we would, then we would have a big issue. Remember, women buy 85% of all the cars in the world. If you would come up, that's what I don't get in my head, if you would be a car brand and you would say, this car is as safe for women as for men, how much of that car would you sell? Enormously. So I don't get it, why we don't build it. And this has to do with legislation, of course, et cetera, but it's a mindset that needs to shift. The same for athletes. Since we're investing more and more in female athletes and female football players and basketball players and volleyball players, and we have quite a lot on hockey players, we see that women have 40% more injuries in knees and ankles than men. And that's simply put because the sports shoes women are using, the football shoes and basketball shoes, are not built on the ergonomy of a woman's body. They are built on their foot, but not on the rest. The point is, women have a little bit more, the pelvic is a bit broader, let's say, than men. So their, the torsi, I don't know how I say it, the torsi of the knee and the ankle is really different. And of course, we are hormonal, so it also is doing something with our muscles and everything. And that means that we have much more injured players. But now that we are investing millions and millions in the WNBA and in female soccer and in all of these sports, all of these trainers are saying, why are my players on the bench? Why are they hurt again? So finally, since 2 years, we have one football shoe, one in the world. Adidas brought out their female football shoe 2 months ago. 2 months ago, there is one brand which is basketball shoe. And all the other shoes that are sold on a unisex base, which is male. So it's also hurtful. Clinical research. Up till 1993, clinical research was only done by men, although if it was not related to pregnancy, uterus and breast, because that was research with women, but all the rest was male. You would say that's nothing wrong, but still up till today, the testing is done by the two genders, but in the end result is not separated, which means that actually the female numbers are not taking into account. Animals, the animals used for testing, the rats, the mice, the monkeys, 5 and 1 is male. Yeah? So even in the animals, there's not a split between female and male animals. When we look at heart disease, it's the #1 death reason of women, also in Belgium, by the way, not only in the US. You see that 1/3 of the clinical trials are only done by women. So 2/3 on men, but it's the biggest death problem of women. And Alzheimer's disease, 75% of all the Alzheimer's patients are women, 75%, but the mice used to test it, 66% are male mice. So you can imagine that that doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. So what if you would, it's like Dafalgan and paracetamol and ibuprofen is 20% less effective for women than for men. Nobody knows it because nobody talks about it, but it's a fact. So, and why is it? Because testing on women is very, very expensive. The fact is just, if you would test on a man and you would test on 100 men, you perhaps have a 20% deviation. If you would test on 100 women, might possible that you have 100% deviation. Because since we are hormonal, every woman reacts differently, and it's a huge cost for the pharma industry. So that's why we are not doing it, but it's actually hurting women quite a lot. The same, and again here, the homogeneous group is the biggest enemy for women, seeing that men are the same as women, but women are not small men. Women have a complete different system. And the same with heart disease. You see, out of all the tests done last year, only 17% uses the segregated results between men and women. 17. And the same with migraine. You can imagine women are the biggest migraine patients with menstruation, with menopause. You can imagine this is a big chunk for women. Also, there only 7% publish sex disaggregated results. So you can imagine that this is a big problem, and it's a cost problem. And this was a few weeks ago on the VRT and on NOS Sport as well. The research on a women's heart has a lag of 35 years. So it's 35 years behind the research of a male heart. 35 years. And they recently just discovered that when a woman, does really at a high level sports, that her heart changes completely different. So it's not that we are biologically the same, because that's what's always said. Women are biologically the same as men, but just they have this hormonal and they have a uterus and they have breasts, but it's not the case. Actually, on every single DNA level, there is a difference. And that is something to take into account. The only data set in all the data that generative AI uses that is more female than men is the audio data set. And that is the voice data. Yeah? Why? Because of these women. In the 20s, in the 30s, in the 40s, there were millions and millions recording of these women who took the phone and who put the phone through to somebody else, who were the secretaries, and all of these voice recordings for 30 years have been recorded. And that is the biggest voice data set they currently have. That's why Alexa and Siri are all automatically female voices. Because again, in all of the data there are not female data, so you don't get it out. And these data, there are much more female data than male data, and they cannot change it easily either. Because Google tried to come up with a gender neutral voice, and they all worked on male voices and all this stuff, but it's very difficult as well there to change it, simply put because the initial data set is bigger than female data. Okay. The feminovations, or female as a service, or whatever as you call it, for me it's very interesting to dig into that, certainly with the group of people here today, because there is so much excitement and possibilities going on. So the idea of let's shrink it and pink it is, of course, for me a killing principle. We make it smaller, we make it pink, and then it's done for women. That is, of course, the biggest bullshit we can ever imagine. And we saw it, for example, with Lotte Kopecky. I don't know if people love racing. The steer that female coureurs need to use to bike is actually built on the width of a male shoulders. So these female cyclists are smaller here, but actually they have to drive also 80 kilometers downstairs, downhill, with a bike which is not adapted to their body function. The saddle today is adapted to the body function, but all the rest not. So there's still a lot of things to do, if you can imagine, and more money will be put in those sports. That is something. So the shrink it and pink it doesn't work, and of course unisex sucks, if you ask me, because everything which is unisex is male. So just forget it, and please try to look at the female data set, or at least at the female target group. So what are the innovations? We have lab-grown meat, we all know that, the lab-grown burgers. Today we have lab-grown breast milk. Yeah, people are really looking into the fact women, of course, don't always are able to give breast milk. Can we do something with that? Heart monitoring, you know that number of heart diseases, number of one failure for women. So biomarkers, and we will see a big chunk of newness coming up in that area. Biomarkers in bras and t-shirts. We all have the Fitbits that measure, but there is not a lot of female cardio data. There is not a lot of female hormonal data. So the big, let's say, companies are now looking who can have these female data, because pharma isn't building on these data because they think it's an area they don't want to go into. So the big tech corporations are all looking at the Oura rings, the Fitbits and everything to gather all of these female biological data that we didn't have. But you will see an enormous boom in biomarkers and biotech that will help women with certain issues. Of course, the apps. Today, I think every day is at least 100 new female apps coming up on being able to track your cycle, to see what food can do. Club Brugge has a menstrual coach. They hired a menstrual coach, and all of the female players at Club Brugge are being monitored with a Fitbit, but also when they are in their menstrual period, they get other food, they change the games, or they change the moment they get a menstruation when it's not a big game, because when it's a big game, women perform less better. I wrote an article on our female estafetteploeg, and when they take the pill, for example, or when they have a menstruation, they run 3/10 till 8/10 lesser quick than when they don't have it. So it's really important for us to measure it, to build on it. Wild AI got a lot of money, it's a Belgian company as well, from the BBC for really sport performance enhancement for top sporting women, for example. Evie, the smart rings, or Oura, or whatever, Samsung now also has a smart ring, the Fitbits, etc., that will be even more, will become even more important the next coming years. So you will see a big chunk of that. Mula Kicks, as I said, the first brand on basketball shoes for women, made by women. For me, it doesn't necessarily need to be made by women, but at least put women in your innovation group. But that, you can imagine how many basketball players want to play with that shoe. Sweaty Betty, femtech in sports. Everything which is sports gear is not adapted to the female body. So women, they sweat differently when they work out, but all of the clothing that is made by Nike and Adidas and all of these brands are made on the way men sweat. But women sweat on different places, underneath the breast, between the legs, etc., etc. So you will see new sports brands popping up that are enhancing certain areas where women have problems. This is a project, I talked with some scientists from the KU Leuven and the Red Flames, so the Belgian female soccer team, and they're even looking at adapting the artificial grass so that the torsion of the knee and the ankle will be easier for women, so they have less problems at their legs. So for me, that's really important, that we don't only look at the shoes, but that we look at the full environment. You can imagine that perhaps, you know, when you have gymnastics, or when you have all of these floors where people do basketball on, or volleyball, could that be even better if it was adapted to the female body? Big question mark, yeah. Miss Journey, that's another, let's say, AI image generation next to Mid Journey, but they only generate female images, whatever you put in as a prompt, and that's more like an artistic approach to it, but I think it's funny to have that as well, and it's very inclusive in all kinds of types of women with all kinds of types of backgrounds. For me, this is also quite important, because I have done brand strategy for 30 years. I've done a lot of apps and shopping experiences. This is something that for years and years we tried to sell to a lot of retailers in Belgium. We never got to use it. For me, female UX is not the same as what we currently look at UX. So UX now is, and I charge, I know I charge, is like, oh, what is the best route to go to my basket size when you are in a fashion retail set? but women shop differently than men. So the psychology is completely different. Here, they were as smart because women like to have a tendency to go to their sisterhoods when they want to buy something to get an acknowledgement if that's the right dress. For example, their friend is going to get married, they choose some dresses they want to, perhaps buy to go to the wedding, and now she can invite her friends into the basket and talk with them, oh, that would be nice for you. Yeah, but I'm going to wear this, so it's the same color, so it's nice if you do the same thing. That is female UX. So for me, it goes way beyond just, let's say, the interface, but it's really tapping into the emotional and psychology of a woman when they do banking, when they do retail, when they go for groceries, for food, when they go for fashion. It's a different mindset. And you see new banking apps popping up, which are really tailored to these women, which is an interesting one because for years and years I've been told, no, we don't want a banking app for women because women want to feel acknowledged the same as men. And there's a lot of women who are counterintuitive about it. They say, I don't want to be treated different like a man. I want to be exactly the same. But they have just simple, different thoughts about banking. And so it is interesting to look at it from a different perspective. And you will see a lot of investment companies also starting to create more education and more products really tailored to women. Of course, this is done in Sweden and Norway because they're always a bit more upfront when it comes to these topics, but know that women will have half of global wealth in hand, so we will see a lot of these things popping up. This is a fun thing, I just put it in because I think it's fun and I thought for this audience I can do it. It was manicure actually with an RFID chip in it so you can pay with your manicure in the store. Now you would say, this is a nice to have, it's a fun thing, but also there you can go quite a lot. You can imagine if Taylor Swift is wearing these, everybody wants to have these, yeah? It's as simple as that. Decentralized communities. We know 1% goes to, all the investment money goes to women, 2.2% of venture capital. So there is a need, let's say, for decentralized communities of researchers, funders, and advocates to really invest in more femtech or fem-oriented innovations. So also there, we really will see newness. Okay, and this is the end. Women are hot, and it has nothing to do with menopause, but it has everything to do with the kind of investment you can make or have to make. Peter Hinze, I don't know if some of you perhaps know him, other not, he's a bit like the business guru of Belgium, talks on big podia, and he wrote a book which is called The Day After Tomorrow, and his investment system is, if you have a company, you need to invest 70% of all your money in the issues of today. You need to invest 20% of your money in issues of tomorrow, which means the next coming 1 to 3 years. And think about where's your company heading, what are your products heading at, and invest in that. And 10% in 5 years to 10 years. That is the day after tomorrow. Yeah? That is the ideal, in his view, way to invest in the future. But then one of the big captains of industry in Belgium read the book and he said to Peter, yeah, that's fine if you have a small or new company, but if you have an old company, all the money goes to soy. And soy stands for the shit of yesterday. Because if you have a big corporation, you might as well say 70% of money goes in today, no, 99% of my money goes in today, and perhaps 1% into tomorrow. Well, I think that women are also part of the shit of yesterday. The data that women represent in all of our consumerism sets is part of the shit of yesterday, and we should be aware of this. The moment you create new products or services, ask women also their opinion, or look at the female psychology when building stuff, because it will bring you much more revenue and much more success on your product and services. And I wonder, couldn't women be hot? So the hope of tomorrow. So that is my keynote on this. So thank you for your attention. I brought 5 books that ICAPS is offering to the people here. So if somebody is interested, let me know, and you will get a book for free. That's it.
Yeah, it was quite an amazing talk. Just all very eye-opening insights. And maybe also to kick off maybe the question round, like we see that there's a lot of interesting things actually about there's a big market. What people are not seeing it today? So
No.
what would your advice be to make this knowledge more widespread in companies, in society?
One is that we all talk about it more, that women are also more aware of their economic power, because women are not. Men are not, but women are not either. Huh? It's not that women are not aware, but there is no man on the whole earth who would say, I'm now going to build a car which is not as safe for women as for men. That's bullshit. All the men, of course, want a car that is as safe, but we are just not aware of it. So for me, it's like being critical. When you work with AI, we are all very critical. Well, have the same mindset when you work with gender data and data, or when you work with target groups. Because knowing your target group, the old-fashioned research, to be honest, is not done enough. And I think for me, it's a plea for more research and investing more time to really understand the psychology or the real issues that women also have regarding a product. You could easily well now take your 3 most successful products and ask yourself, could we have done it better if we would only have created or invented it for women? Have we done it differently? Would we have built something different in it? So as with DIY and inclusivity, we know that if you put in innovation teams more people that are different than the group of innovators, that it changes. Well, the same goes for women, of course. Add in at least 1 woman in an innovation team, and they will already think about women automatically, whilst research has shown that if you only have a group of innovators which are only male, they will only think from a male perspective. And it's not because they don't want to think from a female perspective, it's just that they don't think about it. So for me, it's much more creating this awareness. Be aware with AI, there's a lot of hurtfulness for women there. Be aware of products and product design, and because think also about the enormous possibilities of creating for women, because they will be very thankful and they will buy your product much more than a man will do. So it's only a win-win, I would say.
All right. Yeah. We have room for 2 more questions. So Annie, yeah.
This was a very interesting presentation. I would recommend the people to read the book called Invisible Woman.
By Carolina.
About
Yeah.
the data biases regarding the males and the
Yeah, it's a very interesting book.
more awareness.
Yeah, Carolina Criado de Perez, she wrote a book, The Invisible Women, and it's much more about all fun stuff as well, on who invented what and what are also the big data things. I try to make it much more an economic story, because I want to, reach out to all the investors that they are going to invest more in female innovation.
One last question. No?
I hope men are not intimidated by today, yeah?
Yeah.
I wasn't very feminist, was I? No, huh?
So do you now think that more investment will go to sensitive products now that they were getting more 50% of the capitalist power in this?
No. I think that it will take a long time when we will get 50%. I think that when you look at society today, because I also do a lot of economic trends, it becomes very conservative. A lot of companies are really very much, again, male-oriented, in the sense of why do we need to do all of this? And so there's a big discrepancy, I think, between the leadership and the builders of big tech. Like in Elon Musk, he's also not pro-women. Huh? So the moment it's not in that data set, it will not happen. So it is for us, I think, all the people and all the women, but also all the men, really want some business potential to speak up or at least to think about it, because how you will turn it, women will have 50% of all global wealth. And that has never happened before, and I'm sure that Trump nor Musk knows this. Huh?
Right. So yeah, thank you, Crystal,
Yeah.
for this amazing talk. So also for you in the audience, so we are taking like a 10-minute break. Yeah, 10-minute break, something like that. But if you have any questions for Crystal, yeah, you can find her still in the audience, and we'll be heading back in a couple of minutes with Sherry's talk. So thank you very much. what I hear, she's talked to legal experts, to all kinds of experts actually. So she brings a broad perspective, and she's gonna tell you all about it now. So please give a warm applause for Sherry.
Thank you very much. And so good evening, everyone. I'm Sherry, and I'm very happy to be here tonight. And this is my first time in this group. And because I'm very passionate about UX research and also the design part, and so I really want to find a network and with this kind of people who have shared interest. And I was introduced by a friend to know this place, so I tried to apply to be the speaker, and that's why I'm here. And so I'm really want to introduce myself and my work to with you, and to make some new friends here. So I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Antwerp, and today I'm going to share a little bit about my interdisciplinary PhD research on the topic designing chatbot for victim survivors of online sexual harassment. And there might be some topics related to harassment that can be triggering for some individuals. So if you are feeling the need to get help and support for you or your friends, you can scan the QR code. There are some local helplines here that can supporting people who are in need of harassment support. And so first of all, a little bit about me. I come from China, and after the bachelor study, I have been working for 4 years in China. First as a management trainee in Epson, which is a Japanese company who is famous for their printers and also the projector. And later I worked in digital marketing for a Swedish brand, and to helping them promote their brand in the Chinese-speaking consumers here living in European countries. And because of this international, like the experience of working in international companies, I got to know colleagues from Japan, from Southeast Asia, and which made me realize that I really like this diverse cultural working atmosphere. And so I want to really go deeper into the different cultural environments. So I decided to come to a new country. And that's why one of the reasons why I started my master's study in Barcelona in Spain. And it was a really international class, and I had really happy time there. We together learned about AI, machine learning, and also the most interesting thing is about the game design for education and for entertainment. And I really like my master research, which is about evaluating the game designed for children with autism to helping them foster social behaviors. And it is also because of this master study, I become more and more passionate about designing innovation technologies for the people who are in really need of them. And so I try to find other projects that I can work on. And very luckily, I got this PhD research project in the communication department at University of Antwerp. And so that's how I started my PhD. And for this research project, it was funded by the European Marie Curie Research Grant. The big project is named NetHate. It consists of over 15 PhD researchers from over 10 universities in the European countries. And we together are working on investigating different types of online and offline hate speech and hate crime, and the mitigation and intervention strategies for preventing it, and also for victim support. And we have 3 working packages. So we looked at this phenomenon from the psychology, the technological design, and also the cultural perspectives. And my work is situated in the technology part, which focus on the helping victims of online sexual harassment through online reporting and supporting systems. And in my research project, I have the consortium members, like the professors from the social science background, and Caroline, Heidi from University of Antwerp, and also Sarah from the Tilburg University. And they have been really working. They have been working for many years in the field of, for example, cyberbullying and all kinds of online aggression behaviors, and also the technological behavior intervention design and evaluation. And also I have the other consortium member from the Leiden University in Netherlands, and who has the expertise in evaluating the innovation technology from the legal perspectives. And also another consortium member from University of Antwerp spin-off company, TextGain, and they had really good work in monitoring the online hate speech, all kinds of it, in different languages across all the social media platforms. And so at the very beginning of my PhD, I need to plan for how I carry out this research project in the following 4 years. And it's my first time lead a project, so I need to find a framework. And so I picked up this design thinking framework. Maybe many of you already know it, because it's a very common framework in the user-centered design. I find it really helpful for planning my research project. And of course, in reality, my research doesn't go like a linear progress as this process. In my own research in reality, I think the emphasis with the users, the defining a problem, and ideate solutions, these three almost happening at the same time at the first stage of my PhD. And then the second phase of my PhD is prototyping the proof of concept chatbot and the testing. So I will go into the details about what I did in each phase. And so first, I was trying to understand the issue of online sexual harassment, and I got to understand this from three perspectives: the social science perspective, the legal perspective, and the user experience perspectives. And from the social science perspective, I learned that there are a long history of research studies about what is online sexual harassment and who are at higher risk of being a victim of online sexual harassment, and the consequences of the for the victims, and also their coping behaviors and determinants behind their behaviors. And so in a short summary of what I learned about this, so first of all, what is online sexual harassment? It is an umbrella term of intersectional kind of online aggression behaviors, including gender harassment, for example, humiliating comments or judgmental comments towards one's gender identity or sexual orientation, and secondly, unwanted sexual attention, for example, people sending unwanted sexually explicit images, videos, or pictures to you, which you don't want to see, and which can quite often happen on dating apps and other kind of apps. And the sexual coercion is the behavior that puts some extra psychological pressure on the victims, For example, cyber stalking for sexual purpose or sextortion, and this could be a form of sexual coercion. And people who are at high risk of experiencing online sexual harassment, including young people, adolescents and emerging adults, and women, and LGBTQ+ individuals. And for the victims, they suffer a wide range of consequences. For example, experiencing this experience can have emotional distress, cause emotional distress for the victims, including feeling ashamed, feeling fear, and feeling depression, anxiety, etc. And also, this kind of harassment experience can also have an influence on their career opportunities. For example, for young people, they may, after experiencing the harassment, they may feel a lack of being difficult to focus on their learning or their work while their harassment experience is still going on. And also, the harassment experience can also have a negative influence on the victim's social relationships. For example, relationships with their romantic partners or future romantic relationships, or even with their family members. And the harassment is very prevalent on almost every kinds of digital apps, dating apps, game environment, social medias, and even teams in working environments. And the major social media platforms made their commitment to address online harassment already. And of course, there are still many actions that they need to take. And from the law perspective, there are some legal instruments like the International Human Rights Law, and in the EU level, the Digital Services Act, and also other instruments have trying to hold digital platforms responsible for taking care of the users who have the harassment experience on their platforms. For example, the according to Istanbul Convention, the digital platforms should assist users in making complaints about their harassment experience to relevant institutions. And the digital platforms should also offer the accessible information to the helplines. And also the digital platforms should have the reporting mechanisms built in their platforms. And in the EU level, the Digital Services Act has put transparency reporting obligations on the platform. For example, these platforms need to have their content moderation strategies and need to publish their content moderation results to be transparent about how they deal with those content. And also the Digital Services Act has put the digital platforms, requested digital platforms to have really user-friendly internal complaint handling system. And these are from the law perspective, some guidelines on what this platform should do. And from the UX perspective, I did a walkthrough of the 4 major social media platforms in-app user reporting systems to see how their user report system now is working like. And also I did the design thinking workshops with the researchers, with the educators, and also with the students in university and also in high school, and to collect their complaints about the reporting systems on the current digital platforms. And a brief summary of the opinions that I have collected are that these participants found out, think that before they report a case to this digital platform, they sometimes wasn't aware that whether this online sexual harassment could be reported, and or they don't know well to report, and sometimes they are not sure which category to choose from because it's very confusing, complex choices out there, and also some just don't report because they don't know what can happen, whether the digital platforms will take any actions to their report after they did the report. And also after the report, many people says that there is a lack of responses to what they report, and sometimes they feel that the reporting process is like a code machine, and they don't feel any understanding, hearing, or empathy from the digital platforms. And also they feel that sometimes the report just doesn't help at all. And so after collecting all these voices from the users, I also trying to understand what is the real life experiences of these victims. And this is the most challenging part because I don't have that, I'm not in that community. It's hard to find this group of people. And so I consulted the TextGain, the consortium company, and because they have really rich work experience in monitoring the online discussions, and they advised me to look at Reddit because it is an anonymous social media platform and really decentralized. And there they also observed quite some people share really long and detailed stories about their harassment experiences. And so that is a place where we can understand what really happened in their daily life. Of course, there is some ethical challenges because you cannot just look at their stories and without their consent to use their stories for research purpose. And so there are also some stories behind it, how to overcome these ethical challenges. But in the end, we got it, we got the data, and with the consent from the group moderators of the Reddit communities, which I researched about, and I analyzed the content and the discussions on those communities. And as some of my findings, I found that after people experiencing this harassment, they are very often in an emotional distress state. And at that moment, emotional support from the other users are quite appreciated, like receiving a lot of upvotes on the Reddit. And also the advice, not the general advice, but the advice that is really practical, actionable, especially those shared by other victims, are also very appreciated, like receiving a lot of upvotes. So this all evidence made me realize one thing, is that in this reporting system, it is very important to not only making it a really functional and feasible reporting process, but it's also very important to taking care of the emotional experience of this group of users. So the next step, I tried to think about some solutions, and I did this by firstly doing a review of the existing solutions that are out there already been designed and evaluated in the scientific studies. And so I did a review of this kind of tools and to collect their evaluation results, like what users like and what victims dislike. And as a result, I found that there are quite some supportive tools already have already been researched out there, chatbots, for example, chatbots, victim support websites, and also some digital educational program or some social media campaigns. And these are in some way liked by the people who are experiencing harassment. And also, I did the design thinking workshop. From that workshop, I also collected quite some interesting ideas. Chatbot is still one of them, and also like the escape room game and some reflective interface. So there are a lot of ideas out there. And so in the end, I decided to choose to further working on the idea of chatbot because I think now the chatbot has already been applied in many e-commerce and banking and all those kind of apps, so it should be technically feasible. So I decided to work on the idea of using a chatbot as a reporting system to improve the current users' reporting experience on the digital platforms. So I think I propose that the chatbot can provide the immediate replies, and it can explain what online sexual harassment is, and it can, most importantly, acknowledge users' emotions and experiences alongside their way of reporting, and also assist users in choosing which reporting channels that they can use, and also to inform them of the reporting outcomes, like when and where can they get the results of their reports and what happened to the accounts that they reported, and also offer the general practical and actionable advice when the users request it. And the last phrase, I evaluate my idea through an online experiment. I created actually 3 versions of the Figma interactive prototypes of the reporting systems. And the first version is the baseline, which is the menu-based reporting system, which is mimicking the current reporting systems on many digital platforms. And the version B is the chatbot reporting system without any emotional support messages, and also without a human name. And the version 3 is the chatbot with a human-like name, and also with the emotional support messages in between the reporting process. And I randomly assigned the participants into using the 3 versions of the reporting system, and did a survey afterward. And this research found that using a chatbot reporting system with the emotional support can significantly reduce users' negative emotions, increase their trust towards the reporting systems, and also increase their overall satisfaction and reducing tension of this reporting system. So in a nutshell, I think the most takeaway or learning for myself out of this PhD project is that in this kind of sensitive application context, users' emotional experience is also very, very important. So alongside the practical and feasibility of the reporting system, it's very important to understand and acknowledge that the harassment experience that they have been going through, and also to take good care of their emotions. And yeah, that's my research work in a nutshell. And you are all welcome to my PhD defense, which in December 10th this year at University of Antwerp. And yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I will put the registration link later And if you want to read my research papers, you can follow my research gate. And also just welcome inbox me for saying hello or anything.
All right. Thanks for sharing, Sherry. So it was really insightful, and especially insightful to see like how like the empathizing response basically can make such an experience a lot lighter, basically. And maybe to kick it off with a question to you, like, yeah, you mentioned indeed the chatbot interface and being more empathic towards users. And I also wasn't completely sure, like, would you use the AI for it or not? But like, I know that people that have like such an intense experience, if it's off basically, or if it, or if it would hallucinate, I could imagine it could also have like a very big impact. So, like, have you also thought in the chatbot about like what if the chatbot fails to respond in an appropriate manner, and how to deal with that?
Yeah, I have actually think of that in my last research study, which I didn't put it here. And it's it's about taking advantage of the Gen AI in this process, and I also consulted with the helplines, like the people who works in NGOs, and the researchers and the legal experts, and who both all of them are now currently not very supportive about already using the Gen AI, because there are several things. First is the hallucination that you talked about. For example, if we are not sure if the technology now is safe, that the chatbot will not advise, the Gen AI will not advise the channels or information or coping strategies that are actually appropriate for the people. So for the AI chatbot, that's the last study that I worked, mainly developed by other researchers in Australia, and they actually they created the overall conversation with the verification from the experts who worked on this research area, or who worked for the NGOs, who have been working behind the helplines. So, so in the research field in AI, like the human in the loop is very important here. And also I did a user experience interview with people's experiences with the AI chatbot for supporting victims of online sexual harassment. I also got the replies that the participants actually really appreciated that the information, or the chatbot information, was checked by the expert. Yeah, and so if it's possible, I think now the technology should be possible to have a human or expert in the loop to verify the content before it goes live to the users. And there's also one thing about the transparency regulations in this kind of AI chatbot, because the EU AI Act has put regulations that the chatbot or AI should disclose the use of the AI in this kind of chatbot. And also when this kind of if you disclose the identity that I'm a chatbot, I'm not able to understand human, this can also create certain distance between the users who are in emotional distress with the relation or the trust or the feeling with this chatbot. And that is a tricky part, and is something that maybe requires more work on how to strategically communicate the use of AI with the users in this kind of AI chatbot.
Oh, that's super interesting. So yeah, there is another question.
Can I ask about the more technical part of the chatbot? Like, for example, what else do you write for data? Or like, how does the categorization work? Like, can you give an example about, for example, two different prompts being answered in two different ways, or is it in general a general answer from the chatbot since if it's only about sexual harassment, isn't it already a very niche subject? Like, does it give that different answers? To try to understand more
Mhm.
the value of the chatbot.
Okay. I heard two questions. I think it's, yeah, if I understood correctly, you want to know the value of this kind of chatbot, whether it's too niche in its applications. And the simple answer to that is that online sexual harassment is very, very prevalent. There's studies and also a lot of NGO reports and showing that the prevalence of this kind of phenomenon globally ranging from 20% to 90%, depending on the types of harassment that you are talking about. If it's really mild forms, like the humiliation and some judgmental comments, that is more prevalent, and to the more severe or even illegal forms of harassment, then it's less prevalent. But in general, it is like from the 20 to 90% of the prevalence in global countries. So, and there are already like actually many places offer support to victims, but it's scattered all around. For example, the police station for the illegal forms of like sextortion and image-based sexual abuse, and this kind of illegal forms, the police station have ways to document the reports and and also for the mental health services, they also have the counseling. Sometimes it's free, sometimes it's paid for this to support the victims, and also the legal part. There are also some legal support for this kind of victims, but all these things are scattered around, and the digital platforms is the first place that people experiencing this. It's also the first place where they can know what to do and what they can do or what rights they have, whether it's illegal or it's not, and what rights they have, what they can do, and things like this. It's the first place, digital platform is the first place that they can get all this information. So I think the purpose of this chatbot reporting system here is to give all these options to the users who experiences harassment on the spot when they are experiencing it. Yep.
Two hands. Yeah. Well, one up to the other, yeah.
Well, it's obvious, probably my question, but did you make a split between men and women in the sense of how they react differently
Yeah.
towards chatbots?
Yeah, in my research, I have actually in I think in the survey study, and I didn't. In that study, I have the 80% of the participants are the women and LGBTQ plus group, and 20% men participants. And for the last test, I had like half women and half men. So because in the research studies about this phenomenon, it consistently showed that women are at higher risk of experiencing online sexual harassment. Of course, it depends on which type, but in general, women are at higher risk of experiencing it. So that's why when I sampling the survey studies, I recruited more women.
Yeah, we have. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
The solution in the sense of do women want different things from a chatbot than a man in certain situations?
Mm-hmm.
Should the chatbot have different answers towards women? That was much more than just a split. Did you really segregate the results in the sense of creating different components?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very good advice. I didn't analyze the needs differences between the women and men. And the conclusion that I got that emotional support is is very important. I think it may be also because most of my participants are from the women participants. Maybe men participants can have different needs, because in my according to the data I've got, indeed a small portion of the participants, they think they prefer a more quick, practical, non-emotional replies. And I think maybe that relates to the gender identity, but I didn't did the analysis, difference analysis between the genders. Yeah. But I think that's a good advice. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we only have room for one more question. So there's
I'm not sure how much you engage with the technical part, but I just want to ask about how you developed the chatbot, just the technical part. You were engaged in it.
To be honest, I'm not very engaged in the backend part. I'm mostly developing the Figma prototype of things, so I didn't involve in the backend part. I only know that they did not this chatbot. The last study I didn't show here. The research group, they did the machine learning using the Amazon machine learning to train the chatbot, and it was also done by researchers who have completely no computer science background. It's the female researcher from the law background who did the coding and everything. So it was not a very like fancy chatbot as the ChatGPT, but it's up and running and serving over 1,000 users. But it can also, unfortunately, it can also run for 2 years, I think, until now, and it will be shut down because there's no more funding to support the maintenance of this work.
All right. So Sherry, thank you for enlightening us with your insightful talk. So please give her a last round of applause.
Thank you.
And that concludes the talks for tonight. We hope you have a lot of new nuggets of wisdom, basically. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. So I hope you still stay around for another beer or two. And as for us, so we had the pleasure to be here with ICAPS today.